man declared himself a god while still made of flesh. What happens when the body of a ruler is turned into law itself? When every whim, every cruelty, every appetite becomes the empire's command. Rome, 37 CE. The marble palaces of the Palatine Hill glowed with torchlight, banners rippling in the night air. Gaius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus, known to history as Caligula, had just inherited the throne after the death of Tiberius. At first, the people saw him as a savior, young, charismatic, the grandson of beloved Germanicus. But within months, whispers began. His laws blurred into his obsessions. His rituals became theater, and his authority fused with bizarre habits that left citizens trembling. Tonight we descend into the strange machinery of Caligula's rule, where politics became performance, and the emperor's body became Rome's greatest spectacle. He began with the gods. Caligula did not just pray, he demanded to be worshipped as one. Shrines were erected in his honor. Statues of Jupiter were altered to carry his own face. In the temples, incense rose not only for Mars or Apollo, but for Caligula himself. The mechanism of control was subtle yet devastating. By fusing state ritual with his personal vanity, he forced Romans to collapse civic duty into divine obedience. The cost fell on priests, senators, and ordinary citizens who risked blasphemy charges if they hesitated. Public processions carried his effigies through the streets, flanked by guards and chanting crowds. Chroniclers later summarized this as a ruler who erased the line between altar and throne. But the open question remains, was this madness or calculation? Did he seek true divinity or merely total submission? Then came the cruelty of spectacle. Executions had long been staged in Roman arenas, but Caligula twisted them into personal theater. He ordered prisoners to be torn apart by wild beasts, sometimes on a whim, sometimes in the middle of games intended only for entertainment. Slaves, criminals, even men accused of petty crimes became fodder for the arena floor. The human cost was immeasurable. Families ripped apart, bodies discarded for amusement. The performance was as much about the emperor's presence as the punishment itself. Seated high in the stands, he signaled life or death with a flick of his hand, reveling in the crowd's gasps. Roman records hint at the chilling phrase he reportedly loved, "Let them feel they are dying." Whether he spoke these exact words is uncertain, but the effect is undeniable. Death as theater, fear as governance. But his strangest laws reached deeper into identity. Caligula allegedly commanded senators to run beside his chariot, forced nobles to kiss his feet, and even appointed his favorite horse, Incitatus, as priest and promised him the consulship. Some accounts describe jeweled stables, ivory mangers, and banquets where the animal was seated among Rome's elite. To modern ears, this sounds absurd, almost comedic. But for Rome, the humiliation was sharp. The mechanism of control was not the horse, it was degradation. By exalting a beast above men, Caligula shattered hierarchy, mocking the Senate's dignity while displaying that office itself had no sanctity outside his will. The public performance was carried out in feasts and ceremonies, watched by astonished guests, whispered across the empire. The record keeps the memory alive as one of Rome's most grotesque political jokes. But was it only madness, or was it a deliberate ritual of erasure? Another habit shook the financial lifeblood of the city. Caligula drained the treasury with extravagant games, temples, and personal luxuries. When funds dwindled, he turned to confiscations. Noble families were accused of treason, stripped of wealth, their estates absorbed into the imperial purse. Auctions of their property became public theater, with Caligula sometimes acting as auctioneer himself. The human cost was ruin. Ancient lineages wiped out in a day. Crowds watched as household goods, heirlooms, and land titles changed hands under imperial decree. Chroniclers later remarked that fear of accusation became the true tax of Rome. Anyone could be next. And the mystery lingers. Did the empire clap out of awe or out of dread? Then there was the sea. Caligula staged a bizarre campaign against the waters themselves. He ordered legions to march to the shore of the English Channel, then commanded them to collect seashells as the spoils of war. The ritual mocked the very idea of conquest. Soldiers stood bewildered, filling helmets and baskets with shells as if they were golden trophies. The human cost was dignity, Rome's military prestige twisted into farce. But in the public performance, the message was clear. Even the sea must yield to him. Records interpret this as a display of divine conquest, a symbolic domination of Neptune, god of the oceans. What Rome thought in silence we cannot know, but the cliffhanger remains. Was it satire, a test of loyalty, or delusion written on the waves? His appetites, too, became law. Banquets stretched deep into the night, where Caligula demanded rare dishes, costly ingredients, and sometimes forced senators to drink to excess until they collapsed. Guests became captives, trapped in rituals of indulgence where refusal was unthinkable. The human cost was degradation, health, and the constant terror of offending him. The performance was staged at tables of marble, under ceilings painted with stars, with music, incense, and endless wine. Chroniclers recall feasts where laughter froze on lips because no one knew when a jest would turn to execution. Here, the line between private vice and public law collapsed. The emperor's hunger dictated Rome's rhythm, yet we must face the complexity. Many accounts of Caligula's reign come from later historians, writing decades after his assassination. Enemies of his dynasty had reason to exaggerate. The horse, consulship, the seashell war. Perhaps they were satirical inventions, political smear campaigns, distortions passed through time. Some modern scholars argue that what survives is not portrait, but caricature, sharpened by hatred of a ruler who broke too many taboos. And yet, even if half the stories are embellishment, the pattern remains. A ruler whose body and whims became instruments of governance, whose rituals blurred sanity and sovereignty. In the end, Caligula was undone by the same spectacle he created. In 41 CE, assassins struck him down in a palace corridor, stabbing him again and again. The Senate and Praetorian Guard moved swiftly to erase his memory, smashing statues, silencing his decrees, purging his name from inscriptions. But erasure itself became part of the ritual. The memory of a man who turned law into theater was not permitted to rest quietly. His habits, whether fully real or partly imagined, reshaped the identity of the empire, forcing Romans to ask how far power could fuse with ritual before collapsing into chaos. So what do we learn? Caligula's reign shows that when rulers elevate their own bodies to the level of gods, the line between devotion and degradation disappears. Ritual becomes domination. Memory becomes punishment. And the people are left wondering where the emperor ends and where the empire begins. Which raises the question, if power can be sustained by absurdity as much as fear, what strange rituals today might one day be remembered as madness?